Look, you know, it's fine today. I'm not even that hungry. I don't care that you don't have anything. It's fine. Seriously, like I don't even expect it anymore. Year after year after year. I mean, why would it change now? So Spite is out, and as long as the Copacabana doesn't shut me down over the next year, we'll do another one. We'll have to see. I'm recording this the day before Thanksgiving, so I don't know how things have gone. You guys know. I'm speaking to you from the past. But let me talk to you about the process of this one. I love doing these videos. It always gives me like a little peace of mind when I go back and watch them. They're actually very meaningful for me. I struggled finding the music to this and making the music that seemed to fit it appropriately. So I actually ended up using music that I had created like a year before and just sort of had set to the side. A fun fact about this song, I had actually deleted the file by accident, and just as the grace of God or whatever, I happened to track it out, like export all of the tracks separately, like the drum and the snare and the piano and the whatever, which I never do, but for some reason I happened to do it with this one, so I was luckily saved in that regard. I already knew what the concept was. So in Solid Unit, we criticize reviewers, and then in Burn, we criticize trolls, and in Hungry, we criticize the community, and then in Smoke and Mirrors, we criticize distributors, and then in Nothing For Me, we criticize some of my own viewership. So I thought it was time to criticize myself. So I knew what that was all about when I went out to do it, right? Like I understood the mission. And the mission was to take a deep, long look at myself and think about, so to speak, by the way, but think about my overall contribution and has there been a net positive or a net negative? And it came from certain things, right? So I would look through threads or whatever, and I would see people tearing each other apart sometimes. And then some of the language they were using to tear each other apart. I'm not saying that they got it from me, but it's language that I use on my channel and on my podcast or whatever the case may be. So I was like, man, could I be directly or indirectly responsible for some of this? Even though my energy has always been be good to each other. If you have an issue, the issue should be with these companies or these distributors or people that you're doing business with. Not that it should be us against them necessarily, but that we should have some sort of camaraderie. If one of us fails, we all fail, in a way. So it just got me to kind of thinking along those lines and saying, man, maybe I should look at some of the missteps I've taken and have a moment to analyze what I've done and whether or not it's for the greater good or if it's doing a disservice. So I started writing it to this music. In the first verse, I kind of start out with, you know, not everybody realizes how much of a standard I do hold myself to. And even though it does look junky sometimes and it looks haphazard and thrown together, some of it is by design, some of it is circumstantial, but there's a lot of care that I take with certain elements of all of it. And when it gets misconstrued, that's bothersome, right? And it's more so bothersome to me than you know, and it's also when it's a failure or it goes left or whatever happens, how much it bothers me. Nobody knows. Nobody knows but me and probably my wife, because it eats me up. It's not a haphazard thing for me, all of this. It's not at all. It's something that I take seriously, and it's something that I put a lot of time, thought, energy, and effort into. So the first verse is kind of about that. It's acknowledging missteps. You know, it's acknowledging mistakes. It's also acknowledging that I'm holding myself up to a standard that I've only placed upon myself. Nobody else has put it there, and I'm not letting anybody down. I'm only failing myself, but that's what that's about. There's a water metaphor that goes throughout it that's kind of tying back to Burn, because Burn is like me getting angry at people and reversing the victim role, and this is more about me saying, well, maybe I'm pointing the fingers at the wrong folks, right? So whereas Burn deals a lot with the fire element, this deals a lot with the water element. The second verse, I go into a lot of stuff about, like, not necessarily greater good in terms of the community, but also in terms of my family, right? A lot of this I've done to kind of lighten the burden off of them, and in turn, I think I've taken a lot of time away from them, which is why I ask questions like, how would I be perceived by my grandmother? My grandmother passed in '07. She was the most important person to me for most of my life, or a large majority of my life. My wife has given her a run for their money now. But I do wonder about, like, the decisions that I make and, you know, and all that. Do you know about the time, buddy? Do you know about the time, like, that I take away from my kids? Which is why in the video shot I had that shot of them without me there, right? Like, that's the space that I was in. It's the only time they appear in the video aside from the intro, and it's when I'm talking about the time that I spend away from them to accomplish this stuff. And then the third verse is about me kind of being ignorant and not being aware of some of the things that I do, like that whole, you know, I was throwing pebbles into oceans that were huge that I didn't think the ripples would travel that far to you. Like, when I hear about things that have happened in different countries because of something that I've said in a video. I'm like, good grief. Like, taking responsibility for those actions and realizing that there are consequences to the energy that I put out there, whether it be positive or negative. But I think I put a fair amount. I'm not trying to be hard on myself. I think I do put a fair amount of positive energy out there. I think I'm mostly positive energy out there, but it's not always that, right? And then the kind of bridge part was more so about how I'm very fortunate. I don't have a very big subscriber base, or I don't do huge numbers, and trust me, there's people that make me aware of that all the time in my comments. I'm well aware of the numbers that I do and the subscribers, but what I do have, I feel like, is a very dedicated viewership. There's a couple thousand people out there that really appreciate what I do and support it, and my hat's off to them. But that little bridge there is about, like, look, like, take what I give as a tool to you, but don't follow me, because my life is a series of train wrecks, you know, one after the other. So unless you want to end up in that same wreck, don't follow me. Do your thing. If I can help you do your thing, then please allow me to help. But that's it. And the hook, my wife actually wrote part of it, oddly enough. Like, I was struggling with it, and she's like, they know you, but they don't know you. Like, that's part of it. And I was like, okay. So I took that, and then I extrapolated it, and then I turned it into something, but it was too repetitive to do twice, so then I added in the extra thing at the end, which is why it's an 8-bar unique chorus, which I've never done before, you know, here. And then I put my kids on the intro, right? So every video, it's what's up, everybody, it's your favorite such and such's favorite nerd, and today we're going to look at whatever. So they say, what's up, everybody? My baby says, what's up, everybody? And then Selena says, it's your favorite reviewer's favorite nerd, and today we're going to look in the mirror, is what Jaina says. So that all came together. I went to the studio, to E Black Studio, Mike Mack Studios, Architect Studios, I think is what it's called. They're great if you're in the Baltimore area. They're fantastic. They're really, really good people and really, really professional and know their stuff. I started going to the studio with nothing for me because it just took too much time to mix and all that stuff myself, and I just don't have the time anymore. So it's worth the money to just have it done properly. And it sounds better, so there's that too. But it's really cool, the engineer, the dude E Black, it's really cool to watch him work. It's an enjoyable process. So that was it. I had the song recorded. I'm listening to it, and it is kind of a bummer, right? It's not an uplifting song necessarily. It's more of a, you know, introspective song. And that's important in the sense that I want all the songs to be unique and different. But I was listening to it with Joe in the car on the way home, and he was like, it's good. But he didn't ask for it. He didn't ask for a copy of it, you know? And I was like, ooh, the last couple he's been like, man, I gotta get a copy of this immediately. So I was thinking to myself, like, man, maybe it's not as good as, maybe it's not up to par. So I sat on it a while, and, you know, and I was like, oh, I don't know. And I put it out on Patreon, and I got some really good feedback there, so that gave me a little bit more confidence in it. And I was like, well, I'm just gonna do the video for it and see how it all lands. I was driving home from work one day, and I got to thinking about, what am I saying in this song? And, like, what is the clear vision? And then all these questions start popping up, and I was like, well, I should base the whole thing around the question, right? Like, who? Like, clue. So that kind of started laying the blueprint for the angle I was gonna take. So the first place that we went, I knew I wanted to go to, like, spooky places. So the first place that we went was Burkittsville, right, where the Blair Witch was shot. And I got some really cool shots in the town and kind of driving through. Like, it's a crazy, crazy space. And there's this old thing of ruins in there. Like, it's like it was a guy's house, and it's since collapsed. There's like a little castle front. I have no idea why that's there. It's like the war memorial, because like Antietam and all that stuff is close by. Like Civil War stuff happened there. I don't know too much about it, but there's some cool imagery that I got and was able to kind of put in. But that's not the first shot I got. Earlier on in the summer, there was this bee, and the bee had encountered this like caterpillar or larva or something, and the bee was trying to have its way with it. And we saw it, and Laura was like, I read something about it, so she pulled up this thing, and like a lot of times bees will find these other bugs and think that they are mating with the queen, but it's not. But they give it their all, right? So she was like, you got to film that. You got to put that in the video somehow, like the vibe. And I was like, you're absolutely right. So I ran inside, got my camera, came out, and I filmed some of it, and it did work really nicely.
Yeah, pretty sure he thinks he's mounting the queen bee, and he's mounting the caterpillar.
That's incredible.
too much sexual energy back there.
But back to the story. So I'm videoing all this stuff in these ruins.
I think we just walk up the edge of the fence and shoot it from the back.
No, it's not what I want.
What do you want?
I want to be inside.
Why?
Because that's what I want.
It looks cool.
In front of this tomb is where I did one lip sync version, and it was stressful because this place is like, it's like a touristy place, so like I didn't want to make a spectacle of myself and be embarrassed and humiliated doing this nonsense. So I was like, kind of had one eye open on the surroundings and then one eye on the camera. So it was a little awkward right in front of this tomb, but we were able to do it kind of incognito and did our thing and then got out of there, which was cool. The second bit of filming I did was with the kids. I know I wanted the video to kind of open with them actually playing Clue, and then, you know, eventually it goes from that into the music video, and it was good. Like they are troopers, like they know their way around like roles and stuff now, like and what's their motivations and all that. They get into it. So
Can you tell me when to go?
Mm-hmm.
What does she say?
It's your favorite review's favorite nerd.
it was smooth sailing. You know, the baby's a little troubling because she's a baby, but
Look up again.
She looks so stressed.
Say, what's up, everybody?
What's up, what's mine now? Body.
Say it one more time.
Body.
No, I gotta see your face.
Say, what's up, everybody?
What's my body?
Say again.
Sit down.
Say, what's up, everybody?
What's my body?
she got with the program. You know, like her sisters got her on board, and I always like to include my kids and my family and stuff, so it's important to me. So it's like a documentation. You know, if you look over the music videos over the years, like you can see them grow up. It's pretty awesome. When we were filming the dice roll, Jaina rolled the 6. And then I needed Selena to move a piece just because of the angle of the shot and the lighting. And Jaina was literally upset that Selena got to move the piece 6 spaces because she had rolled the 6. That's my children. That's how they are. Just cutthroat at every turn.
No good. Can you move your guy 6 spaces forward? When I say so.
One.
Go.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Wait, that was my
Alright.
roll though.
Now,
That was my roll.
it doesn't matter. Trust me.
So I threw that together that night, and then I showed my wife just that part, and then I had a couple of the lip sync parts tagged up from the tomb, and she was like, "This looks really good. Like it looks better than normal. Like you've stepped your game up," which was nice to hear. So the next thing that we did was we organized this dinner. This dinner was for the shooting of the Clue rolls. So I contacted some of my close couples, the Pinkertons who played Mr. Plum and Miss White.
Have the wrench and be looking at it, like you're really using the glasses to look at it and adjusting it. You're lowering it down. So like head back, almost like a flash dance. And then pop them. Perfect.
Joe KW and his girl Krista, who played Miss Peacock and Colonel Mustard.
Go. All right, go.
And my buddy Shoulders and his wife Sherelle, who played Miss Scarlet and Mr. Green.
All right, go ahead. Stop. I don't want you to burn yourself.
Should I lower my glass more, or is this fine?
Or you can shake it around, maybe like you're checking yeah, perfect.
And I knew I had this plan, right? I needed a couple of group shots, and I needed single shots with all of them. And I knew that I wanted like an establishing shot, something that seemed safe. Then I wanted them to start coming unwound, and then by the end of it, they were in complete disarray, right? Where the entire script had been flipped on you. So Mike, I knew he was gonna have like the green bandana, and he was gonna be kind of enjoying a drink, and the next time you see him, he'd be pulling the bandana out and kind of wrapping it around his face, and he had his rope like tucked in his sleeve, like.
It's hard.
All right.
Go for it. It's a good look. It's a good look. All right, you.
I don't think they're gonna actually break though.
No, just like f them up.
You know, just the slowly unwinding of these characters into monsters, you know, villains, which is like metaphorical for kind of my intentions here and in the context of the song. Like I have a, you know, I got a little bit of a, you know, angle on stuff sometimes. I don't try to get too deep in the explanations, but I do think a lot of this stuff out. As fate would have it, Marilyn Phil wanted to come through for the party, and he was like, "Can I be in a video somehow?" And I was like, well, "I don't really have a role for you." And then I was like, what could I do? And my wife was like, "Have him be the butler," which was brilliant.
All right, action. Go.
And we ended up using a ton of his shots because a lot of those establishing shots for him welcoming people into the home, it worked so perfectly. It's such a smart choice. And he also had his hair slicked back and he looked great. So I'll show you some of that footage and some of the laughs and stuff. There's one scene in particular that I'll cut in here, which is of Pinkerton crushing that grate. And I'll show the whole thing of that here, and then along with some other antics and shenanigans.
And yeah, and I would pick it up. All right, everybody got their giggles out? All right.
Me and Joe are gonna emo each other.
All right, here we go. Don't do that. Come on.
We're fine. We're fine.
All right, you ready? Mm-hmm. All right.
Get your serious face.
No. You relax because you're gonna make people laugh. Laura?
I told you.
I'm sorry.
Scared me.
I was making drinks.
All right.
Get out of the way.
Yep. Laura, your hands. And spin your pearls.
Like, twist them?
Yeah, almost like you're spinning them around your neck.
Oh, it's joking.
So then there's my wife and the French maid bit, right? And originally my wife was going to be Miss Scarlet because I didn't think that Shoulder's wife would be willing to do it necessarily. But she was. So once she was able to do it, I wanted the couples to kind of be in their own bag. So like, what am I going to do with my wife? I want her to be in the video. So I talked to her about it. Like, what can we do? And she was like, well, I could be the maid. And I was like, well, I twist my arm and break it, you know what I'm saying? So she got all dressed up in it, and she was like, look, just don't make me look like an idiot. And I was like, I won't. So she got a couple drinks in her, and she did everything I asked her to, multiple takes, etc., so to speak.
You're asking a lot.
It's not that much.
Like, she just amazes me with how giving she is to me, how willing she is to help me do anything and everything. Like, I love that woman more than anyone will ever know. And that night was very, very good.
All right, go.
So then we needed more lip sync scenes, and everything else was pretty much done, right? So there's a legend in my town, well, not my town, but the town near where I grew up, that there was this old church called the St. Mary something, I don't know. And there was a groundskeeper there, and after the school closed, the groundskeeper was allowed to live there rent-free as long as he kept up with the grounds. But there was a rumor that, like, he had, like, this satanic altar up there and all this stuff, and, like, I actually went up there as a kid, and, like, there's these long steps, and I ran up the steps with a buddy of mine, and we heard like the dogs getting let loose because we heard he had Rottweilers up there, which he did. And so we ran back and got in the car and left. And it was just one of those things, like one of those legends, like those local legends that you just never thought was you're ever gonna see. And then my wife was like, well, let's do Hell House. Oh my God, it's so brilliant. So we went to Hell House. Now it's long since abandoned. Most of it's burned to the ground. It's just rubble for the most part. But it was an amazing experience. Like walking up, seeing all the old kind of architecture and disarray and rubble and destruction, and I'll show as much of it as I can here. And my kids got to see it. They had a great time. Like we hiked up the mountain in the winter, the whole bit. So it was really, really a fun experience in that regard. And you know, it's ironic, right? Like you do this video about, you know, in part sacrificing your time with your family to do this other thing, and then as a result of doing this other thing, you find a way to incorporate the family, and you end up having this great day. And we went up to the top of this little mountain and saw the altar and did some video and some camera shots and some, you know, photos, what have you. Like just a really, really good time. We went live on Facebook.
All right, serious face. Serious face.
We're Chinese.
It's not Chinese.
It was just a good time. The last shot that we had to do was at Chris's house, which was supposed to be the reveal that while the clue game is all the diversion, the truth is that I am killing myself in some ways. And it's to kind of suggest, it might be a little heavy-handed to be fair, but it's kind of to suggest that I'm letting a lot of baggage go. Baggage that I used to hold on to, that I carried guilt or stuff involving what I may have done, what people may have perceived I've done or interpreted a way that I've done, and I've carried that with me, that I'm killing that side off and I'm moving forward. My wife was working the camera on this as well, which she did for most of it, but she was tired this day and she didn't have a firm grip on the zoom in, zoom out.
Let me know when you're recording.
I'm recording. You can give me a heads up as to when I need to zoom out.
Yeah, you can start zooming out now. All right, let's do it one more time and I'm gonna walk away, all right? Let me know when you're ready to zoom out.
Okay. Okay, so I got you. Now, what do I do? Zoom out?
No, you back the camera out so that you... Did that work?
Yeah, but I might have to try that from a couple of different angles. Maybe you should go just a hair to the right, if you can safely.
And I'm walking around in this mask, so I'm almost falling and breaking my neck all over this rocky terrain.
It's treacherous in this thing.
All right. Hey, your mask is like all bundled up at the bottom.
All right.
But after that, it was done.
I'm glad you don't smoke Newports.
And then I brought that home and I put that together and I showed my wife and she was like, it's the best one you've done.
Bloopers.
Showed everybody. Everybody was like, dude, this is top shelf. My buddy Joe was like, it makes me like the song better, which makes me feel better about the situation earlier. So I'm really proud of this one. I was interesting to do. I know what I'm doing next year if I had the opportunity to do it. And I know it'll be a different vibe, of course. And there's been a few, right, where I have a clear vision of something and you do it and it turns out well. So I had a clear vision of Burn and I had a clear vision of Nothing For Me and I had a clear vision of this one. And Burn turned out pretty much exactly how I envisioned it, and this one did too. Nothing For Me kind of was the best I could do given the technology that I have. So it was nice to kind of see something through and it turn out the way you wanted to. And I can't thank the people that participated, you know, in this enough. Like, they all got dressed up in formal attire, came through, did everything I asked. Like, that takes, I mean, it might sound silly, but it takes guts to do that. It's not easy, and you got to be brave. Like, you got to trust me. You've got to be confident. You have to be brave. Like, it's not easy, and I thank those people so much for helping me kind of bring that to life. And hope you guys dug it as well. It'll be up on all of the downloading platforms, the iTunes and Google Play, for the year, and then it'll be gone. So as long as it can pay to do another one next year, I'll do another one next year. And I'll probably do another one anyway, because I don't want to leave on this note. I don't want to leave on a super sour note. Not that it's super sour, but it's just kind of depressing a little bit, you know? And I don't want to leave on that note if I have the opportunity. So yeah, thank you guys for checking it out, and thank you guys for watching this, and thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care. Popeye's chicken sandwich, maybe, on you? Anybody? On me, I guess, then. Fine. Round them up, boys.
All right. That should do it.